Hi, I'm Autumn,
And I'm Laura,
and together we're
the
the
Boo
Boo Sisters.
Sisters.
Bow chicka wow wow.
That's not our theme song.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 6, the final episode of season 2. We've enjoyed this journey with you this spring. Hope you've enjoyed it too. That's it. I don't know what else to say. Show
And
over.
it's not ending here. There will be a season 3.
Yes, season 3 is going to commence sometime in August. But in the meantime, on the quote off season, we're going to have some special pop up episodes. So make sure you hit those subscribe buttons or follow us on social media so you know when those are going to be posted because we don't even know when they're going to be posted right now. Laura, let's tell them about one episode in particular. Where are we going to go in May?
We're going to the Penhurst Paracon.
Whoop, whoop. We're so excited. It's the beginning of May. Is that close? No, the end of May. It's
Middle-ish of May.
middle May. It's going to be so fun. We're going to stand in line and talk to our favorite ghost
It's gonna be
hunters.
so fun. We're standing in line, guys. Isn't that great?
Listen, listen, I think anything you stand in line for is fun. It has to be fun at the end of that line, or else why would you stand in it?
That's a good question. I think some people ask themselves that all the time. Think about going to like the DMV and how fun that is.
But at the end of it, you get to drive because you have a license in your hand.
Some people already drive and they have to go back there to get other licenses and things. Nobody is
Well,
happy at the DMV.
oh my gosh. Well, you could bring your crochet projects and then be fine.
Well, you would know all about that since you just started crocheting.
It's really fun and relaxing. I'm really enjoying it.
Back to the Golden Boo girls, old ladies over here with their crochet projects.
I'm gonna get so good that I'm gonna start making those like octopuses and crochet bunnies and stuff and have a craft table. Maybe my craft table should be all crocheted ghosts of different colors. And then
That
I'll
would
put
be
our
cool.
card out for the Boo Sisters. Oh, maybe on our like when we do a con and have a Boo Sisters table, I can just crochet little ghosts as part of our
Yeah, you
merch.
should.
But back to Paracon. So we're going to go and we're going to talk to some people, talk to our favorite Ghost Hunter crew and Project Fear and Josh Gates, and it's going to be so fun. If
And whoever else
you're,
is there,
yeah, exactly. But if,
including you.
yes, if you're going to be there, say hi because we will not have any lines because we are a small but mighty podcast that
Yep.
wants to meet you. So
We
let
might
us
see
know.
you in the lines though. If you
Yeah.
see us wearing our Boo Sisters jackets, we're the only ones with them, so you'll know it's us.
That's us. And Laura, we get to go into the buildings, most of the buildings at Penhurst Asylum, which is going to be so fun. I've never been there, so it's going to be a great tour, I
You
think.
say that like I've been there. Like
Okay, you've never
in
been
my
there
dreams,
either.
maybe. Well, we've been there virtually through the television screen
True.
investigating,
It's
but
going
we'll
to be
get
fun.
to go inside ourselves and maybe use some equipment like an EMF detector or something that we can use around other people if there are other people there,
Yeah, and we could also use an ovulus because that can't be manipulated by people.
unless it can be manipulated by people.
You know what? When I was on my Charleston trip, my friend and I, Megan, had the Ovilus, and we were like, what if this thing is pricking up like brain waves? We don't know what this is really doing. Like maybe we can think hard enough about a word and it will show up on the Ovilus.
And did it?
So we did it about 6 times, and I think only one time the word was remotely close to what we were thinking about. We decided to think about a ball, like the shape of a ball, what you can do with a ball, how it feels in your hands, how big this ball is. Anyway, so we're both thinking about balls.
Naturally. Yeah, okay.
And the word that came up was it was either kick or dodge. I think it was dodge. It was something active that you could do with a ball, but it was
Hmm.
still random enough that it could have
It
been
could
just a
be,
coincidence.
yeah, probably a
Yeah.
coincidence. One out of six times and that far away from the word ball, I feel like is not significant. As far as parameters of like a scientific experiment, I don't think that that's a significant outcome.
Yeah, we might need more brain power, like 3 or 4 people thinking about balls.
So we just need to get some people together at Penhurst and say, everybody think about balls.
That would be
Well,
cool. What if the whole mass amount of people we stood up on a stage and we're like, we're trying an Ovilus experiment. Everyone think about balls. But here's the thing, people would be thinking about different types of balls and it wouldn't work out.
yeah. And I also don't think I want to be the person to stand up on stage and demand everybody start thinking about balls either. So,
We might be arrested. Oh, anyway, the tour is going to be awesome going through the buildings. It's going to be a good time.
yeah, it will be. I'm excited about all of it.
And then we're going to go stay at the Temperance Inn in
Yeah.
Philly.
A haunted hotel with a lot of really cool history, but we're not going to tell you that history right now because when we do this special episode that Autumn mentioned, we're going to talk about the history and we're going to record from the hotel itself
That's the plan. Hopefully it all works out. Because
and tell you
actually,
about our experiences if we have any, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
yeah, Laura and I live across the country from each other. So we've actually never recorded together in the same room. So this will be our first trial test run of recording in the same room. And hopefully it goes smoothly. And hopefully we catch an EVP while we're recording from the haunted ghost room.
It'll be like we have a guest speaker, the
Yeah,
ghost, whoever that is.
it'll be, hey, how you doing?
Joey from
Yeah.
Friends will be our ghost speaker. It's like guest speaker, but ghost speaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wish the ghost was Joey Tribbiani. So, anyway, stay tuned. Again, hit those subscribe buttons and that's it. I think so we can jump in to our final episode. Laura, I think you're going first this week.
Today, I am talking about the Jerome Grand Hotel. Have you heard of
Oh,
it?
nope.
It is in Arizona, which seems very sunny and bright and happy, but maybe not as much as you might think. The imposing Jerome Grand Hotel rises above the mountainous town of Jerome, Arizona, and the beautiful Verde Valley. Some might call this little nook a ghost town for the number of older and abandoned buildings that were left empty on the heels of the thousands of miners who left in the middle of the century. You may not be surprised then that this hotel has gone through several phases during its lifetime. It was built in 1927 as the United Verde Hospital, a replacement for the old hospital which had taken damage after the United Verde Mining Company hit a fault in 1917. The new hospital was one of the most modern medical facilities in the West, with patient call lights, an ice making room, because apparently a machine was not enough back then. There was an ice making room and an Otis self service elevator, which still actually functions to this day.
That great American craftsmanship.
Yep.
Otis elevator.
They also had x ray machines, which was novel at that time, and the best surgical facilities. Unlike a number of the hospitals we've talked about before, by 1930, this one had become the highest rated and regarded hospital in the West. I think of cowboys and the miners and stuff, and I'm thinking about the dusty streets with these old broken down saloons and things, which I know it isn't exactly the right period. And then this up to date fancy medical hospital with all these modern things, and it just does not go in the picture.
That's a fair painted picture.
Until 1950, it was primarily used to care for local miners. the accidents, illnesses, injuries, and even tuberculosis outbreaks. Due to the dangerous nature of the business, it is believed that there were 9,000 deaths within the hospital's walls.
Wow. Is that a lot for hospitals? I feel like for a hospital, who knows?
Well, we also have to factor in like population size and age and all of that. Let's just look up average hospital yearly deaths. It says 984 deaths per 100,000 population. At its peak, there are over 15,000 miners and family members that called Jerome home.
1,000 is what percent of 100? So if it's 1% per year, 1% of 15,000,
15,000 would be 150, and that would be in 30 years.
the death rate in 30 years at that hospital should have been 4,500. So it was double. So there you
So
go.
any hospital that's doing double time death rates,
Rates.
not a good thing. Now that we've got the math out of the way. This is not a math channel. By 1953, mining operations completely left. The streets all but emptied, save for about 100 people who remained behind, and the United Verde Hospital sat vacant, overlooking the shell of the city that remained. Now you've got the tumbleweeds in the picture for sure.
Yep.
Afraid of vandals, the owner hired a caretaker by the name of Manoa Hoffpower. And in 1980, which is about 30 years later, just under 30 years later, Hoffpower was found hanging by his neck in the engineer's room, apparently having committed suicide.
Mm.
After his death, the owner asked local police to keep an eye on the property instead, and all of the furnishings that remained there as well. It wasn't until 1994 that Larry Alter bought the property and began turning it into a luxury hotel. He helped infuse money into the whole town for new roads, a parking garage at the hotel, and he even leased out a premier restaurant in the hotel itself, which weirdly they named the asylum for some unknown reason because this hospital was never an asylum.
I have so many
So
questions. The first one is, why do you think a luxury hotel would do well in an abandoned, very unpopulated town?
I am not in any way suited to talk about economies, ups and downs, and timelines. But I think in the 90s, I mean, we were kids, right? But it was like this happier time where I think the economy in general seemed better from what I understand. And a lot of people had play money to go on more adventures, go on more travels. And
Mm.
this Verde Valley, as it was called in Arizona, was a beautiful place, and as a destination, I think he saw this opportunity to put a luxury hotel where people might go vacation there, give the town life again.
And my second question is, maybe they were trying to use the history of this place and bring people in under the facade of it being haunted by naming the restaurant Asylum. Because that just sounds cool. I feel like I would go to a restaurant called Asylum.
I don't think they advertised it, at least initially, as being haunted, but maybe they just played on the fact that they had so many rooms and things, parts of this place that were still hospital esque, like the feeling was hospital esque.
Right.
So it made sense to call it something more medical related, and an asylum would be
Asylum sounds cooler than hospital.
right.
Come eat at the hospital or okay,
So yeah,
continue.
so basically, asylum. That's a strange name. Weird choice for them. The hotel officially opened for business in 1996, but only had 6 rooms available while the rest of the building continued to be worked on. Hence why I said maybe the name Asylum came from the fact that they were still working on the hotel to turn it into a hotel. So they said to themselves, what can we call this restaurant in the middle of what is basically a hospital that's part hospital, part hotel right now?
That's so weird. I feel like there's this luxury hotel, and yeah, it's redone, it's luxury, but you have down the hall, it's like this abandoned, torn up hospital.
I think about, okay, you're walking down the hall, it's nice and refurbished. We've got carpets, we've got cool lighting. Oh, wait, it's getting a little darker. Okay, there's some rooms with open doors and weird things on the
Yeah, there's like
walls, and the paint's
medical
chipping and
equipment.
medical equipment. And is it like that, or were the six rooms sequestered in such a way that nobody ever saw the rest of that?
Right. I don't know. Seems weird.
It does seem weird.
Can I side note for a second? I just
Sure.
Googled as we were talking the Asylum restaurant in Arizona
Mm-hmm.
and found a menu. It says ghostly white sangria, lucid Larry's liquid lunch, straight jacket spritz, electric shock lemonade. Are you joking
Okay.
me? I feel like
So
that's
let's talk about for just a second. I don't know that this is appropriate.
exactly. It's like they're kind of using something serious, mental health, and semi making fun of it, right?
I wouldn't call it making fun of it.
I'm just saying it's supposed to be a luxury hotel, like fancy. It seems more like a gimmick.
It's so hard to know people's intentions because if you can only renovate so much and you want to bring in guests already,
Right, so maybe
you
they're
might try to
playing off of
capitalize.
that.
So maybe this contributed, this restaurant might have contributed to the reputation that the hotel started to gain because paranormal reports began almost the first day that guests stayed in the hotel. Voices started to be heard coming from empty rooms. Calls rang in to the front desk from empty rooms in the middle of the night. And most eerily, the guests heard what sounded like a hospital gurney rolling down the hallway while they were sleeping, and they would wake up and look into the hall only to see that there was no one there.
I can't handle
Maybe they
that.
were drinking a little bit too much straight jacket sangria or whatever you called it.
Right, exactly. But listen, if that's a true report, even in a real hospital,
That's
hearing the
creepy.
squeak of a gurney down the hallway is creaky, right? If I was in the hospital, knock on wood, for something, I would just think, oh no, someone passed away in the hallway down
What? That's
down the
not
hall
my
over
first
me,
thought.
and they're
My
taking
first thought
the
is
body to the morgue.
someone's going to surgery or something.
Okay, well, we know who the positive one in our relationship is.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Maybe you have a fear of hospitals and you don't know it.
I probably do know it.
Even weirder than that is that because of these complaints of this noise in the middle of the night, they added carpeting to the hallway, but visitors continued to complain about the soft squeaking noise.
Oh gosh. Residual for sure.
And as you said, I don't care where you're at. If you hear a soft squeaking, rolling noise in the middle of the night, that's enough not to sleep again. Since that time, scores of visitors have signed the guest book in the lobby and left their stories for others to read. The general manager even claimed that they fill a 300-page book every year and have several of them filed away in their archives. Several books of people's stories staying there.
Can you access them?
I don't think so.
That's a bummer.
I think yes, once upon a time for sure, because I've read personal accounts from people who stayed there and did read them. But now the management has somewhat changed hands. I guess there was a falling out in the family and someone else manages it now and kind of downplays the ghost aspect.
That always happens, right? They always want to hide the ghost problem.
Of the numerous accounts, the third floor is said to be the most haunted. This is where most of the deaths occurred, as it was the location of the operating room and the tuberculosis ward. Aside from the voices that are heard, the phantom calls, and the squeaking wheels, people also are said to see shadow figures, three of them in particular. One is a nurse carrying a clipboard, who two psychics who visited at different times both claimed was the spirit of a head nurse. Another is a doctor in a long white coat, and the third is a woman in a white hospital gown, as if a former patient is still wandering around looking for care.
Oh, that's so sad.
Many paranormal investigators request room 32 in particular because it was the site of two suicides. When the Jerome Grand Hotel was a hospital, a patient who was a minor had been confined to a wheelchair after an accident. Supposedly despairing over his recovery and lack of work, he threw his weak body over the balcony and fell to his death. The second suicide.
Okay. Didn't you do another story where someone threw themselves over the balcony and killed themselves? It was the girl who cut her hand off.
Yep, in the New York hotel.
Yeah.
So the second suicide in room 32 was a maintenance man named Michael who stayed in the hotel in that room. He shot himself in the head in the early 2000s. But before his death, he had complained to his closest friends, including another hotel worker, that he had been bothered by the spirits there.
This is so strange because there was one before this too, right? A suicide before it was even a hotel.
Right. So the caretaker, who
Yeah.
was another hotel worker,
Right.
also had been found hanging, and that was
Yeah.
in 1980.
It seems like a high worker suicide rate. Maybe there is something sinister in the hotel/hospital that if you spend too much time there, it's not good for you.
It could be. Especially, I probably would think in room 32 by the sound of it.
Right.
So then another popular ghost of floor 3 is not quite human at all. Dun dun dun.
Is it a ghost lion from
No,
season
but
1?
it's close. It's a ghost cat. So pretty much not scary. I thought I would try to trick you into thinking it was like a demon or something, but no,
No.
it's a ghost cat. Guests have said that they hear meowing, hissing, and scratching noises. They also feel something rub against their legs or a soft landing on the bed as if something has jumped up onto it, and even feel something curled up against them when they wake up in the morning.
I feel like ghost animals aren't very popular. I like when we hear about them because they aren't as well
They should
reported.
get more features.
More
Well,
movies.
speaking of being featured, in 2008, a guest in room 20 captured a clear image of this supposed ghost cat sitting on a table. The
Oh,
photo is one of many photos of apparitions and things of that nature that are kept at the front desk at the hotel.
I want to see it. Can we see it?
Unfortunately, probably not, again, because of the management change, and I couldn't
Oh,
find it anywhere online either.
that's a bummer.
But still super cute as far as ghosts go. All right, back to scary though.
Okay.
So, the most well known human ghost in the Jerome Grand Hotel is that of Claude Harvey, who was a previous maintenance worker that died in 1935. This is not to be confused with the caretaker who hung himself or the maintenance worker Michael. And side note, you've already kind of pointed out there seems to be some negativity around people committing suicide, but let's talk about the fact that all of these three guys were hotel employees who's passed away.
Yeah, this is not a coincidence, I feel like anymore at this point.
That's a little bit creepy. I don't know if I would want to work there.
I was just going to say that. I think if we're rating our boo scale on if you want to work at a place, the answer is definitely a 5. No, I do not want to work at this place.
So, unlike the other two men, however, Claude died under very mysterious circumstances, and it was thought to have maybe been murder. His body was found pinned under the Otis elevator in the basement, his neck and head crushed. After inspection by local police, the elevator was found to not be the cause of death. However, no x-ray or autopsy was done, as the United Verde Mining Company didn't want to be held liable or receive negative attention for the controversy. And
What?
thus many are left believing that his body was merely placed under the elevator to look like an accident.
That doesn't seem like that's how that should work.
Isn't that life for you?
I'm just saying, a company shouldn't be able to pay and get whatever they want. You can just tell people what they have to do, and people just decide to go along with it for some reason.
To this day, staff working at night see Claude Harvey's ghost near the laundry room, which was previously the boiler room in the basement, and also walking up the stairs there or moving about as if still working. His shadow figure also haunts the elevator, riding it up and down at all hours, occasionally sneezing, which I thought was funny. Like, just randomly, oh, he's sneezing. It must be that Harvey ghost.
That's gonna be me, Laura. I've like had
Right?
allergies all my life. If I die and you hear a disembodied sneeze, it's me.
Phantom
That's how you'll know.
sneezing. That's Autumn for sure. Other ghostly experiences in the hotel include labored breathing and coughing noises, smells of cigars, whiskey, or flowers, various footsteps on upper floors and stairways, doors opening and closing, electrical devices getting unplugged or turning on by themselves, light anomalies, and misplaced items found in strange places. The item movement might be explained by the presence of ghost children who have also been heard giggling and crying, as well as running up and down the hallway. In particular, the ghost of a 4 or 5-year-old boy has been seen standing at the foot of guest beds, staring at them when they wake up from sleep.
I cannot handle. Everyone who listens to this podcast knows I can't handle ghost children.
I think you've said that you can't handle real children, so that
In
makes
fact,
sense.
yeah. In fact, at the Temperance Inn that we're going to stay in Philly, one of the rooms was haunted by a ghost kid that when you woke up, people saw a
Right.
ghost standing by the bed, and we decided not to stay in that room.
Well, you decided not to stay in that room. And get this, everybody. She says to me, oh, I think the bed is too small for the both of us. And I was like,
It was.
that's such an excuse.
Okay, it's both reasons, but you're right. I feel like I probably wouldn't have never I won't go to sleep in that room if I was in that room. So,
I mean, who's
for
to
the
say
bed
that
and for the
little
ghost kid.
boy doesn't roam to different rooms?
Oh my goodness. Now I'm not going to sleep at all.
So, Autumn, I have a treat. I have a firsthand account that I'm going to read you from the Jerome Grand Hotel. Are you ready?
Oh, great. Yeah.
It's an account that was left in one of the hotel books, guest books, but it was also posted online. A friend and I were doing a road trip from Phoenix to Antelope Canyon and back, and had planned to stay at the haunted hotel in Jerome for a night. It's a very well-known haunted spot because it used to be the old copper mining town's only hospital for decades, and they estimate around 9,000 people died in it. Great. That's in parentheses. Great. We really wanted to try sleeping there for a night. It's an old building with a cool old elevator, too, and floors 2 through 4 are where the hotel rooms are. We checked in and got our keys to our room on the second floor, put our stuff down, and went out to a nearby restaurant for dinner. We went out to a bar after that and came back around 12:30 a.m. I wanted to walk the halls to shoot some photos and see if I could see anything. I grab my camera and we head up the stairs around 1 a.m. to the third floor. But as we're walking up, I feel this intense static come on in the air and I feel all prickly, like spiderwebby. Had not experienced that before. We kind of just walk around the hall a bit and look and listen. There's a lot of stuff in the hallways, side tables, hutches, pamphlets, etc. I knew there were mostly older retired tourists staying there that weekend. LOL, Arizona. It was very quiet, no TV noise or anything, but it felt so buzzy, like I was in an electrical conduit. When we reached the end of the hallway, all of a sudden I hear the loudest echoing, weeping cry of a woman in one of the rooms, like someone really sad. It gives me chills right now thinking about it. No music with it, and it didn't sound like a television. but an actual echoing voice that was carrying on, just sobbing, right on the other side of a door we were near. I remember looking at my friend with a face like, oh, S word, that's awkward.
Did they write S word
No,
or are
no,
you
I'm saying
saying
that.
that?
Oh, bleep, that's awkward. And she goes, did you just whisper something to me? She had apparently not heard the sobbing, but heard a whisper instead. Right then, someone coughed in the hallway, so we hightailed it out in the stairwell again. We run up to the fourth floor, and the buzzing is instantly gone. It just lifts. This floor felt chill and normal, very quiet, nothing strange. Took some more pictures and walked all the way back down to our floor again. The crazy part is, we kept getting shocked by things on the way back. Everything metal that I touched shocked me. A radiator, a door hinge, a handle. When I put our key into the doorknob, I saw a tiny little bolt like you do from static electricity. It was insane. Usually you get shocked once and it clears, but we were getting shocked on things for about 10 minutes straight until it stopped. We really did have static. Have never had something like that happen in my life.
That's so interesting because I don't hear static electricity being a paranormal activity situation very often, but it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense since in paranormal research, electromagnetic activity is heightened around
Mm-hmm.
spiritual activity. So it's just interesting that that doesn't come up more often.
It could be that this person or these people were also extra sensitive to it. I know that there are some people that are EMF sensitive.
Yeah.
So it's like
Okay.
you're a walking EMF detector.
Yeah.
So
Man.
she goes on to say, luckily, nothing happened in our hotel room. We found out it was half of the men's ward and a restroom back in the hospital days, so nothing too spooky. The next morning, when we checked out, I certainly had questions. Without telling the front desk what had happened to us, I asked about the activity on the floors. She was like, well, the third floor always has the most activity. The fourth and second floors have some, but the third floor is the one everyone mentions. I asked what was in the areas where we heard the crying and coughing. Get this, the end of the hallway with the weeping was a maternity ward, and those rooms were patient rooms. She said only one of them was occupied on the end that night, but it was next to the door we were standing right in front of where the crying was. People also see a woman over there and sometimes hear babies crying or kids running around. Down the hall from that, where we heard a cough, was the freaking tuberculosis ward. I told her that we had heard, and she seemed very unaffected, like, yeah, that sounds pretty common. Crazy. There were no
Mm,
speakers or anything anywhere, just really nice and helpful staff of locals in a very old building with cool artifacts from its hospital days. The guest books were filled with experiences. I left this one there too.
wow. That's a cool story.
And that was 5 years ago in 2020. The Jerome Grand Hotel still operates today, although in recent years, they've stopped offering ghost tours and information regarding the hauntings. In fact, some people on Reddit say that they no longer allow people to stay in room 32 and also ask that guests not wander the halls at night.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a change. For anybody interested in watching someone investigate the Jerome Grand Hotel, the only group I could find was Ghost Adventures, who did an episode at the hotel in 2011. And you can watch that on Discovery Plus. It's season 5, episode 3. I won't tell you what happened, but they did have some experiences there.
Ooh, okay.
So,
That's
homework
exciting.
assignment, go watch everybody, but listen to the rest of the episode first.
I'm excited to watch. Show's over. Bye.
We done. All right. So, Autumn, what's your boo scale rating for the Jerome
Okay.
Grand Hotel?
I think it's a 3 because I could stay there the night and I would stay there the night, but some of the reports are scary. I don't like the elevator thing, a ghost riding up and down the elevator with me. I don't like the little kid thing or the squeaky wheel thing. All those things would freak me out for sure.
I think the worst
I
personally
think a
is room
3.
32. I wouldn't stay overnight in that room.
Well, for sure not. Or work there. For now on, it's like, would you work there? And if the answer is no, you can't go down to a 2.
Oh, that's a new rule. But yeah, I do think it would be fun to go see the town because there are probably a lot of other old buildings and cool history and monuments and different things to see there too.
Yeah, it would be cool.
And maybe even stop in at the asylum because apparently
I mean,
that's
I
a
would go
thing.
there. If we could go all the way to Arizona on our road trip, I think it would actually be a fun place to visit.
True. Maybe it can be a one off episode someday.
I guess it's my turn. So this week, my story is a little bit different. It could be a haunting, but it also touches on some weird occurrences, some weird mysteries, and cryptids.
Cryptids. Wait, I didn't know we could do cryptids. I like them all. Bigfoot. No, wait, Chupacabra. Oh, the Loch Ness Monster.
I know, I wish it was all of those. But it's some that you haven't heard before, I think. So it's gonna jump into those, and I wish I'm only doing it because it also is a haunting, but I think we should do a cryptid episode maybe next season. This is your classic Don't Get Lost in the Woods story. It is also my love note to our northern friends in Canada. We love you, Canada. And this spooky story about a place in Canada is my gift to you.
Oh, wait,
So,
wait. So, how would that love letter go? Like, Dear Canada, no matter what is happening right now, we love you and would move in with you if we could as your roommates.
yeah. So if you need 2 podcasters in Canada, you can gift us some free citizenship and we'll take
Oprah style or something like, you get a citizenship and
it.
you get a citizenship.
Yeah, exactly. But the love note would probably actually go like, "Oh, Canada." Okay, anyway,
How does the rest of that go?
I don't know. That's all I know. Sorry, Canada. That's all I know. So, my research this week is on Canada's Nahanni National Park. So,
Ooh.
I know we haven't done an outdoor venue before. I don't think. So, here we go. The Northwest Territories in Canada is huge and unpopulated. To put it into perspective, Germany has a population of 83 million people. The Northwest Territories are about 4 times the size of Germany, but only have about 50,000 people inhabiting the area. Right in the middle of the Northwest Territories is Nahanni National Park. There are no roads that lead into this national park. The only way you can visit this valley is by boat, plane, or very strenuous days long hike through rough terrain. But if you're lucky enough to visit this park, you have the opportunity to explore one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's a world in its native form, virtually untouched by man. You have these low valleys that are consumed almost year round by this fog and mist, turquoise rivers that wind through the canyon mazes, and these dark, huge canyon walls and spires that pierce the sky, go through the clouds. So here we are transported to this land that's beautiful, but really looks like the road to Mordor than Canada.
Wait. Mordor. I was thinking it sounded beautiful, but now you see that. I don't know.
It is beautiful, but it's also very deadly. So maybe. But it looks like in the movie where they're in the boat on the river and there's these sheer canyon walls on both sides of them and then they get to this passage and there's these king statues.
You mean like Gates of Argonos?
Yes, great. I'm going to believe you. It's very imposing, right?
I don't know that I'd be scared. I don't know. That movie is all beautiful, even though a lot of it's CGI. Like the scene you're talking about, I think is like 100%
They could have
CGI.
they
But
could have probably filmed Lord of the Rings there, except they all might have died. So it's good they didn't.
oh, tell me
So
more.
it's beautiful, it's imposing, but it is also said to be cursed or haunted by
Dun
the
dun
unknown.
dun.
For a millennia, the Dene people who first settled in the area have spoken of hidden wonders in this land. Whispers of secret tropical gardens, mythical creatures, and spirits residing in the hot springs and unusual rock formations and caves. Local stories describe an ancient hairy giant, described similar to a Bigfoot, who cooked in the hot springs known as the Nahanni. Offerings like tobacco for the giants are left at the hot springs. The Dene believed that wolves were the spirit of their grandmothers, and they were extremely afraid of the dead and would burn their houses and belongings of people who passed. This is all to say that the Dene tribe was very spiritual, believed in these things unseen, but these things unseen were witnessed or passed down for thousands of years.
Okay. I think a number of cultures have burnt their dead and things belonging to them,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
the passing on and returning to earth and all that sort of thing. You said Bigfoot was cooking in the hot springs? I don't.
Yeah, the hairy giants are seen by the hot springs, like their food in it.
So
These
he has
Bigfoot.
like a frying pan and he's flipping some pancakes, or like, what are we talking?
Yeah, probably just like a fish.
Okay. Some hot rocks. You just
Yeah,
slap
that
a
makes
fish
sense.
down.
Yeah,
So it's pretty
right?
much Gollum. The rock and pool is nice and cool, so juicy sweet. I only wish to catch a fish, so juicy sweet. Gollum, Gollum.
Oh my gosh, guys. That is not a movie dub over or an audio clip we just put in. That is her real voice.
Well, not my real voice. My real voice is this voice, but that's an impression that I use my voice for.
And no one knew you could do that, had that talent until just now.
You learn something every day on the Boo Sisters. Sometimes it's history, sometimes it's impressions of characters from Lord of the Rings. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So Lord of the Rings again.
Yep.
The Nahanni Valley was also inhabited by a nomadic warlike tribe known as the Naha. The Naha were ferocious warriors who frequently descended from the mountain homes to raid the simple Dene settlements in the lowlands. So you have this war tribe, the Naha, who's the bully to this more simplistic spiritual Dene tribe. After suffering a number of devastating encounters, a party of Dene braves took to the warpath, traveling into Nahanni country with the intention of pillaging the Naha camp. The warriors cave upon a scattering of teepees and prepared to attack. But upon rushing into the camp with their weapons ready, the Dene discovered that their enemies were nowhere to be found. The camp was left as if they had just vanished. From that day on, the Naha tribe was never seen again, and to this day, there's no presence of the Naha.
Weird. So, what time
Isn't it?
period was this?
I'm not sure. I don't have a date.
So, were there already encroachments by white settlers or anything? That's kind of where
No,
my
it came
mind went.
before. Yeah, these are just warring tribes.
Do you know
Yeah.
how many there were in the tribe supposedly to begin with? Like, was it just that camp or were other
There,
camps found?
I think there was a lot. There was no other camps found. I think the Dene just assumed that if they had left, the other tribes had left the area as well. And I just think it's interesting, right? There's no recorded history. So it's possible that the Naha could have just bounced from that area and become another tribe that we know by a different name,
Yeah,
right?
like
As
they were
a more
absorbed by
southern
something.
tribe, right?
Yeah. You know, the other thing I think of, which is a history reference, and I'll tell you some details and you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and you can reiterate it to the people because I don't know the name of the place. But the
Okay.
place that was on the East Coast, and there there was a settlement of people and like some other people went back to say Britain or
Yeah.
wherever at the time.
You're
And then
talking
when they
about
came
like
back, all the
Roanoke.
people were just gone. Yeah, and all the people
Yeah.
were just mysteriously gone. Where did they go?
Right.
Is
And they only have the one carved word, like a fence post, and they don't know what that word means. Yeah, it's so interesting. They were gone for a while. So again, who knows, right? They might have been absorbed into a native tribe and just been like, look, we're going to work together, right? Because bodies were never found or anything.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Or like a giant man-eating fish came out of the water and just swallowed them whole.
fish. Yeah, a
Well, I
walking
thought we were
fish
talking
that
about
can go.
cryptids today. Is that not what we're talking
I
about?
guess it could have happened. Who knows? So, starting in the early 1900s, real and strange events started to be documented and actually now written recorded history in the Nahanni Valley. When British writer and explorer Raymond Patterson set out to the Nahanni region in 1927, he received an ominous piece of advice. Quote, men vanish in that country, and down the river. They say it's a damned good country to keep clear of. The following stories are why he was given that warning. So we have the Klondike gold rush that is happening in the early 1900s, and people are finding rare minerals and gold in the northern territories of Canada.
Wait, so yours is a mining story too?
Yeah, how interesting is that? I didn't
Isn't
even
that
make that
weird?
connection. Yeah, that is funny. So, this initiated a string of happenings. In 1904, brothers Willie and Frank McLeod, who lived in the Northwest Territory, they persevered through a brutal winter, traveling hundreds of miles by train, homemade boats, and on foot until they reached their destination, the Nahanni Valley at Flat River. You know, they made this journey because they thought, hey, we live close by. Let's give this gold thing a go. We know how to navigate the area. Let's see what happens. So this area isn't explored for gold yet, so let's go in. Their determination was rewarded and they got a whole bunch of gold. On the way back, however, they hit some rapids in their boat and their boat totally broke apart. They unfortunately lost a bunch of their gold in these pails, according to
Oh
history, and
no,
all these
that's
supplies. Yeah.
so sad. You were successful, you think you've made it big, you're gonna be rich, and then it all just gets dumped.
Right. Well, not all of it because they still return to the fort with a haul of gold. Still way more than anyone else really comes back with from an expedition. So their thirst for treasure remained unquenched, and they launched another expedition into the Nahanni Range in 1905, a year later, with a new companion, Robert Weir.
Oh no, this does not bode well. Once you have the gold, why are you doing this?
Because
Why are you
people
getting
need the
selfish
gold. It's their
and
precious.
greedy? Oh yeah, it is the precious. You're right.
There was still so much gold in the rivers, they thought, right? They just lost a whole bunch. But also, they left after filling their pails, but they weren't done with all the gold. They knew that there was more. They didn't tell anybody how long their expedition would be or how long they were going to be gone this time. Weeks turned into months, and then the months turned into a year, and people assumed that
And
they were
then
just
for
killing it.
2,500 years, the ring passed out of all knowledge until when chance came. Go on.
They're just finding a whole bunch of gold. That's what people thought. So a year goes by, another year goes by. So it's been 2 years, and it's been 3 years. And in 1908, Willie and Frank's younger brother Charlie starts freaking out. They shouldn't be gone this long. So he puts together a search party, and the band he recruited heads up south, the South Nahanni, scanning the wooded shore for anything out of the ordinary. They're going for days up the river. There's not a lot of places to stop because if you have these sheer cliff faces, there's no really shore to camp out on. The shoreline finally grows a little bit bigger once they get to the second canyon and they finally spot a tent within some trees.
Mm,
Yeah.
this already sounds like the start of a Call of Cthulhu campaign. This is just super creepy, right? Even if you don't know Call of Cthulhu, it just seems like you do not want to go to that camp. Where
Yeah,
whatever has happened there,
I have no idea that word you're just saying right now, but
Cthulhu.
but no, but yeah, you for sure don't want to go to this tent, right, that you see in the trees.
Right,
That's just a poor form.
you know you're gonna see some things, and they're not gonna be good things.
So Charlie and his crew make a grisly discovery, of
Of
course.
course they do.
Two skeletons at the brothers' campsite by the river. The scene is unsettling. The bodies are both headless. One brother's arm is reaching towards his gun that is propped up against this tree, just inches from his fingertips. And the other brother is seemingly covered by his brother's blankets, as if he's startled from sleep and has thrown off his blankets.
Ugh.
And Weir, the third companion, is missing altogether. Their heads are nowhere to be found. They're never found. A carving in a nearby tree reads, "We have found a fine prospect." That's
What?
it. Yeah,
Like
that's it.
death? What's the fine prospect?
Well, I think the brothers maybe wrote it for some reason and then got
To
killed.
who?
Maybe they were going to leave a trail of notes as
For
they go
what
up the river.
reason? They didn't know
Who
they were gonna
knows?
die. Why
Who
wouldn't they
knows?
just come back and be like, here's our prospect,
But,
we found it?
right? It's mysterious. Who knows why that's written there?
Yeah, see, Call of Cthulhu. Where are the evil
Okay.
cultists?
I already don't like it. Okay. Several months later, another skeleton is found a little further down the river. Although the remains can never be proven to be Weir's, they assume that it is. Word of the find spreads like wildfire throughout the Canadian North. Had they been killed by one of the hairy giant guys? Had they been murdered by the Nahanni natives? Or perhaps they had been beheaded by a rival gold prospector or trapper who wanted their gold for themselves? At this point, it's a one-off occurrence. People are just talking about it around town, like who could have killed them. People are not necessarily suspecting something paranormal at this point. But then in 1910, a Norwegian woodsman named Martin Jorgensen, lured by tales of gold, entered the Nahanni Valley. I just keep thinking everyone's lured by gold. And you know that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where the pirate to Elizabeth is like, "The gold, it calls to us."
So everyone who got gold in this area or
Is
was going after
cursed.
gold is cursed
Right,
and then is
exactly.
beheaded by something.
Right. I think the land is like, you can't have my gold. And then this area is potentially cursed by something. Exactly. So this guy, Martin, he's not scared of the stories of
He
missing and headless
should be
people.
scared.
He's like, I'm excited to go into the valley and make it rich. We're gonna do
Okay,
this.
he's not going to be in the next movie.
So he went into the valley not far from Second Canyon, where the other guys were found, and he builds a little makeshift cabin because he's intending to stay for a longer period of time. After a few years, he sent back word to the Northwest Territories that he had made it rich and that he's going to meet his buddies at a certain location in a few months. He never shows, and his friends get worried, so they go into the valley. 5 years after Martin's initial arrival, his headless corpse is discovered
Oh
about
my
a
gosh.
mile above the mouth of Flat River.
See,
Nearby stands the charred remains of his makeshift log cabin, which had mysteriously burned to the ground. Like the McLeod brothers, his head is also never found. Somewhere there's a hole with a bunch of heads in it or something.
or they probably got destroyed over time, like in the river.
That could also be. So, in the winter of 1922, a World War I veteran named John O'Brien and a buddy were like, hey, let's do this Headless Valley thing. Because now everyone's calling it the Headless Valley because all these people are losing their heads in it, and people for some reason still want to go.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
They set up camp not far from where the McLeod brothers were found, and John tells his friend that he's going to hike upriver and set up a few gold traps, and that he's going to be back in 8 or 9 days. 7 days pass, 8 days pass, 9 days pass, and his buddy gets worried. So he goes to search for him. John is discovered on a mountainside not far from Headless Valley. He is frozen to death. He's found hunched over a pile of tinder, a fire that had previously been lit, with a matchbook with matches in his hand. He has his head, but it's as if he has been flash frozen while he's enjoying a fire. So it's a little odd.
Temperatures can change super rapidly from, say, valleys to peaks and mountains, and especially at certain times of the year. So maybe he was starting to get really cold and freezing, and he had started to put together a fire, got out the matches to light it, but he was shaking so badly and fighting against the wind and stuff and just couldn't get them lit.
Okay, that could be different changes in altitude. Even
Right.
100, 200 feet could be a big difference.
Or a different side of
So,
the mountain slightly, or
but
closer to the water, or yeah.
yeah. Next, a venturesome woman named Annie Lefert separated from her hunting party in 1926. She disappeared into a bush. Her party thought she had gone to look for something or maybe to go to the bathroom, but she never came back to camp. At the same time, a man named Big Charlie, who was trapping in the same area, was camping one night. He's sleeping and he's hearing the sounds of large rocks falling into the river, so it's stirring him awake. He looks up and he sees a woman running up this cliffside completely naked. She stops as if she can feel his eyes looking at her. She turns and she looks right into his face. He is so petrified by the look in her eyes that he hides from her,
Oh my gosh.
and she's never seen again. After he hears about Annie Lafert's disappearance, he tells the description to her party of this woman that he saw, and it seems to be the same woman, but again, she disappears, so no one knows for sure.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. So this canyon possessed her, made her go crazy or something. Who knows?
Or maybe
So
she got into some bad mushrooms.
I guess she ate him off that bush.
Right. She disappeared into the bad mushroom bush.
Yeah.
Mushrooms don't come from bushes.
Oh, okay, berries, berry bush. So similarly, in 1930s, the 1930s saw a string of disappearances and suspicious deaths as well. Phil Powers' charred remains were found in his burnt down cabin. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police's explanation of a faulty stovepipe was widely disputed because if the fire were to start on the roof of his cabin, he would have had plenty of time to get out. Many argue that he was in fact already dead before the fire even started.
Did he have
In
his head?
Yes, well, he was burnt to death, so I would assume so. In 1936, two more prospectors, William Epler and Joseph McHolland, went missing in Headless Valley. When a search party went looking for them, they found their cabin, and just like Phil Powers, their cabin was burnt to the ground, but their bodies were not inside, and they were never found at all.
Hmm.
Another man, an Ontario prospector named Ernest Savard, was found dead in his sleeping bag in 1945. His head was severed from his shoulders and it was never found. The police blamed animals at this point for all of the decapitations, and that's fine.
Yep. It's always
In
animal attacks.
In 1946, John Patterson went missing. John was never found. However, on the last night in the valley, John's search party that was out looking for him was camping near the river, and some native tribesmen came into the camp and they simply said that white figures were roaming around down by the river and in the forest in the last few nights, and that they should not let these figures see them. And then the tribesmen left. Once the tribesmen left, wolves started howling and they heard unknown wailing sounds from deep in the forest. The leader of the search valley said that the forest felt sinister and he would never return. Isn't that so creepy? Oh,
Yeah.
that's like
And the fact that it came from
Spooky.
a native who knows the land, I'm
Right.
always most afraid of land spirits.
And they know the forest and the river better than anyone. So if they're warning you, right,
Always follow that
always pay
advice.
attention, right?
Yeah.
So while the details are scarce, these disappearances and gruesome discoveries fueled the legend of the Nahanni Valley as a cursed place. It adds to its mystery and paranormal occurrences. Throughout the 1960s, some of the scholarly professionals who entered the Nahanni to research its untouched wilderness returned from their expeditions with experiences they could not explain. The accounts of these academics, coupled with the local anecdotes, gave rise to an old Nahanni legend. According to these witnesses, the Nahanni Valley is home to an enormous, solitary, wolf like creature, eerily reminiscent of a monster of myth dubbed as the Wahila, an ancient carnivorous bone crushing mammal also referred to as a bear dog. It was supposed to have gone extinct about 8 million years ago. Others maintain that the Wahila's physical description corresponds more closely with that of the dire wolf, a prehistoric relative of the modern day timber wolf.
I
So
just have
either,
to input here that sounds, I know we've been on a Lord of the Rings thing this whole time. So my head's there and it sounds like a warg. Do you know
a
what a warg
what?
is?
No.
In did you ever see the Hobbit movies?
Yes.
Okay. So the wargs are those big wolf-like bear creatures that the orc, like the white orc is riding.
Oh, yeah. Those are scary. I will post some pictures, but there is some sketches and it looks like that.
Cool.
So, around the same time as the Wahila encounters, various sightings from different parts of the Nahanni Valley of a short, hairy, half naked subhuman clad in a moose skin loincloth carrying a stone club. So, basically, like a cave person.
Hmm.
They're wearing dark, long beards, and the creature is given the name Nukluk by the local Dene tribe. It's also said that maybe this could be the hairy creature from ancestry tales of a creature camping or feeding by the hot springs. You have all of these stories, the White Walker, the wolf, this hairy creature, Bigfoot, whatever, caveman, whatever it is, plus all these tales of headless things, right? It's like, which one of these things would you least like to encounter in the Nahanni Valley?
Right. Well, I'd like to keep my head.
Okay, so that's number one
So
on the
whatever's
to-do
doing
list.
that, I would like to not encounter.
But which one is
Um,
doing it, right? Or is it
the
just cursed? Or,
Are you
yeah,
asking me which is the worst? I don't like the
yeah.
white figures.
Okay, agreed. In 1962, Agnes Blake Mackenzie, a plane crash survivor, was the sole pilot and passenger in his plane.
Hmm.
Despite his strength and good health and access to food, he vanished near a river. They know this because his journal was found near the river, and it has entries for 42 days after the crash. It showed that he was doing well, he was getting food, he was staying warm, he knew the region, and he knew how to track it. But then the entries stopped abruptly, leaving his fate unknown.
Did the writing in his journal end with like H?
Ah, we are the knights that say nee.
Me.
Except that clue for the Castle of Arg was actually found in that bunny cave.
Right.
That
For people
cute.
who don't know what we're talking about, I think that we've gone on some weird, crazy tangent.
We've gotten into the mushrooms.
This is not Lord of the Rings anymore. We are now in a Monty Python movie.
The
Mm.
latest mysterious happening occurred in 2005 when David Horsey and Frederick Hardesty went to stay in a friend's cabin. The friend left while the men were going to do some recreational activities in the valley, and the friend returned 5 days later. The men had vanished, and a search party was initiated. In the cabin, there was plenty of supplies and food. The men had left without their firearms. They were still in the cabin. However, all around the cabin from the inside were bullet holes all over in the wood paneling. A few weeks later, David's body was found a few miles away. David had burns only on his hands. Searchers had already searched that area before. A while later, Fred's body was found in the river about 12 miles away. This
Oh,
case remains unsolved to this day.
that's so weird. The bullet holes and everything makes you think something was attacking them, or
Right. Or again, maybe they were just cursed or something possessed them, something paranormal, right? It seems for some reason everyone kind of goes a little
crazy.
berserk in this valley. About 50 people have gone missing or have been found dead in the Nahanni Valley, all under mysterious, unknown, unsolved circumstances. Canada has started closing off certain parts of Headless Valley. They say it is to preserve the nature and the Dene tribe history in certain areas. However, many argue that the government closed these areas to protect the people from the paranormal and unknown circumstances and creatures that are rumored to lurk in the national park.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing that it's protected land. Whether they're protecting the people or the land, who knows? Everybody's better this way.
Right, you don't need to do the headless thing.
Maybe United States would be good if we had some headless valleys to protect our lands. Some like headless stories
Okay,
to
listen,
keep people out of our
we'll go
protected
into
lands.
our national parks and we'll dress up as some Bigfoot creatures. And maybe they'll just say, "Hey, look everybody. We just have to not go into
Let's
this
not
national
let's not
park
mess with that.
for
We
a
wouldn't
while."
even have to dress up like Bigfoot. We could just strip down and run nude screaming through the forest, and people
Well, then
would be like,
everybody
what's
will come.
happening?
They'll be
I
like,
don't
"What?
think so.
Naked
No,
girls are
you
running
just
through the
be like
forest?"
that woman and just suddenly turn and look and stare at somebody as you're
I I
going by.
I mean, that would be so scary. Imagine that.
I
Oh
know.
gosh.
Uh, there's so
So
much to digest in these stories. There's so many things that could be going on. Cryptids in general. I believe in some cryptids. I really do. There are so many uncharted areas in the world, new species being discovered in those areas of animals and plants and different things, like we talked about before. But all of this seems like a combination of things happening, different kinds of deaths happening, human, cryptid, or animal, maybe paranormal. We'd have to almost go through it like case by case to whittle them all down and really try to investigate them.
so what is your boo rating?
I would give it a 4, almost 5, because I don't think it's safe for me out there in the wilderness in general. I
Yeah.
probably would not try to even investigate this one. And that's why I would give it a 5. But that's more because I don't have the knowledge to investigate safely in nature and go hiking into. I think in the very beginning, when you were describing it, you said it was a very intensive hike, and that can be dangerous even without cryptids and even without the paranormal.
Right.
So between a 4 or 5. It would also be hard to investigate. There's no one in particular place that the activity occurs. It kind of seems like it's all over. You could go to maybe where the cabins supposedly were and burnt down, or where the shoreline
R-
opens up on that one part of the river.
Right, but it seems to be all through the forest, right? Or all along the riverbanks. So you're not
Right.
safe anywhere.
And then you also might have trouble investigating because you couldn't use really the standard ghost hunting equipment, like an EMF detector probably wouldn't do you
Hmm.
any good. A ghost box maybe, but you're not probably getting signals out there to be interpreted as anything. So,
Right. You'd have to use one of those trap cameras in the woods to
oh yeah,
trigger.
trap cameras would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. You know who should investigate? Josh Gates.
Oh, Expedition X would be really cool.
They have, right, the funding, they have a whole crew, they have the correct equipment, they know how to trek that kind of environment, right? And then they have like a doctor on staff that has helped them if things happen. I just think it would be great. Let's tell Josh Gates at Paracon.
Yeah, okay. So add that note to your phone for when we go to the Paracon.
Okay.
Autumn, you
Okay.
didn't say what you would rate it.
Oh, right. I would rate it a 4, I think, as well. I think the cryptids are horrifying, and I definitely think it's possible that a land or an area can be cursed, right? Or have bad paranormal juju. And maybe the land is protected, right? And if you're stripping the land of its value, the land could be upset. I don't know. I feel like I just believe in that. I just believe that the land has a life. The trees have a
Mhm.
life. The river has a life. It should be valued
You
for the
think
sake of
you
being
own
valued.
whatever land you land on.
Oh, it's our singing episode again.
We can only have one of those every 10 years. I've decided.
Oh, okay. Great final episode. Great job, Laura. I really enjoyed your story. It was fun.
Yeah, I think both of these were really great final, strange, haunting, paranormal craziness. And
Agreed.
mining, don't do it. There's a lot of paranormal stuff. That's the
Yeah.
moral of today's story. Don't be
So,
greedy. That's the better moral. Let's
yeah,
go with
don't
that.
be greedy. Don't be
Don't be
greedy.
greedy.
We're so glad that you've been along with us on this journey, and we look forward to chatting with you in season 3.
And before that, in our surprise episodes, thank you for listening. And as always,
Happy
happy
haunting.
haunting.